I've seen you lurking in enough streams and playing enough times that you know what's up.
Yeah, the first thing we do is we want to rename Chrono because his name comes up a lot in the game. And the way we want to do it is we want to delete all the letters beforehand so they don't get printed out on screen.
Mm-hmm.
So usually you end up with the name O or something similar.
So the weird thing about the names, you would think it might be faster just to like mash your A button to write a bunch of characters and then press the B button to delete them. But when you delete them by pressing like the delete button, it actually writes an empty space, and the game will still write that out as an empty space. So you don't actually save any time if you do it that way. You have to go down to the lower right-hand corner, and that particular character is a null character. So battle speed 1, memory cursor. The memory cursor is really important.
Yeah, and we see them change the controls. This is important for slightly later in the game, like I think half an hour.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
some people prefer to swap the menu buttons, Y and X. And some also like to swap other buttons. It's preference, really.
Yeah, there's a couple of tricks where you need to be pressing like 3 or 4 buttons at the same time, and by moving them around, players have found ways that are comfortable for them to do those tricks more consistently. For example, right here, Background Guy is going to be moving down to the next screen to talk to one of the shops to progress the story. And if you hold Start and B here, the shop will close on the very first possible frame, so you never actually see any of the shop menu coming up. And little things like that, holding Start plus B to close menus faster will add up and save you time over the whole run. A couple seconds each time, though.
It also does not matter what your control is for that. Start B always closes the menu.
Yeah.
Also, we saw both of them try the candy skip, but didn't work. As far as I know, it's like a trigger that's not always active.
Yeah, it's a weird one. If you move the exact same way, you should be able to skip it every time, but it's just a very, very tight window. It's kind of like Zombor's skip, where there's like a frame rule after you've hit it, where it won't actually pull you out until you hit the frame rule, and sometimes you can get just past it to the transition.
Also, what you might have seen is usually you're supposed to go into the teleport, but you don't have to for a speedrun. You just talk to Mal and she will go in there instead and say how cool it was that you went in there.
I have a feeling that was probably left in by the developers.
Might be.
So, poor E here, she's gonna disappear into the portal. We have no idea where she's gone. Maybe we'll be brave enough to find out. Will Chrono pick up the necklace?
So yeah, story-wise, you're basically supposed to, I guess, run around the fair, try out some mini-games and stuff. But for the speedrun, it's not really necessary or helpful, because it wastes time.
Yeah, there's a couple things you can do throughout the fair which will help you get guilty or not guilty. And we kind of want to get guilty, but anything that you do is going to cost more time to do than not to do it. Because you can actually still kind of do a coin flip for guilty or not guilty if you just don't really talk to anybody. But even at the very beginning, if you talk to Marley before you pick up her pendant, that's going to change the outcome of the trial. So you want to make sure you pick up the pendant before you go back down and actually talk to her.
Yeah, I had that happen already in practice. grab the pendant first. And I think it's one of the last ones that gives you not guilty then.
Ooh, I think BGG got the magic pixel, which was something that we wanted in the old route, which I think BGG actually uses a couple strats from the older beginning, and really it's only like a couple seconds difference.
Yeah, that looked a lot like the old route. I remember that.
Yeah, there's been a lot of different iterations of the beginning fights, and with new discoveries. Ooh. Okay, BGG.
Lunchtime was a boss buffer there.
Lunch is going to pull ahead a little bit. Luckily, it's not that big of a deal. You can still end up on the proper RNG window for the Nega-Ets, even if you hit this fight.
And ideally, what we want is to get a fast Nega-Et fight without the slow spell.
Mm-hmm.
So you can either do the older strats where you get hit once and still end up on the correct RNG seed, I would say. Or you use slightly newer ones where you don't get hit at all.
Yeah, we've actually got quite a bit of cutscenes coming up here, so I could touch on a little bit of how RNG works. If you want to think about it, you have two floating values. You have your battle value and your crit value. And the ending value of your last battle will denote the exact value of both of those at the start of your next fight. So your crit value, basically anytime any character attacks, it just moves forward one. And there's actually a chart that you can look at which says like which value will crit for which characters. It's pretty cool. And the battle value basically is just going to choose who gets targeted, and every move in battle except for an item usage will increment the RNG a little bit. So that's why sometimes you might want to do like a spell instead of a physical attack, because the enemy is going to attack who you want them to attack. And the other thing to sort of keep in mind is the battle value is not quite as strict as the crit value. So if you have RNG manipulation for a battle and crits aren't required, you just need to be in a rough window and everything should work out the same, because the battle value kind of snaps to a value at the beginning of every fight. But yeah, basically you just kind of want to be in certain windows. If you have crits manipulated in a fight, you need to have the fight prior go exactly right. Otherwise your crits aren't going to be where you want them to be. And even if they're just off by one, that can kind of change how fights unfold.
Yeah, especially in the later fights like Mass Immune. Also, yeah. You might have seen that both runners, I think, run up the stairs quite fast compared to what you used to see. And that's if you press diagonally up or down on the stairs, you move faster than if you just hold left or right.
Yeah, that kind of ties into the bird skip. Because when you're doing the bird skip, you're actually sort of pressing against a diagonal, which will allow you to sort of overstep a trigger. And when you're walking on stairs, if you're pressing just left or just up, you're actually kind of grinding on a diagonal or a corner, and your character always moves slower when that's happening.
And after the bird skip, both of them also picked up the power glove, which is going to be used later on.
Yeah, it's nice how the routing really comes together. A lot of items you pick up, they just end up inching you towards like lethal damage on enemies.
And you see both of them went into a fight. This is kind of like the grinding in other RPGs.
Yeah.
But we only have 2 fights that are necessary. Because the way Chrono Trigger works is you get tech points for each fight, and if you get enough of those tech points, you learn a new attack, like a new skill for each character.
Yeah, lunchtime is doing what's known as an overkill or an RNG jump, where he targets the same enemy with both characters and one dies before the other gets a chance to attack. What's happening on BGG's side is he's just basically holding X for this fight. And because he already got in the fight, he doesn't need to jump the RNG forward, but since lunchtime didn't get in the bird fight earlier, he has to inch the RNG forward just a little bit in order to get the favorable window. So we should see the same fight from both players here now, except lunchtime will get a crit at the start and background guy won't. Kind of showing that the crit is going to be, it requires the previous fight to go exactly perfect. Oh, no crit, but proper movement from the Nagaets here on lunchtime side.
Also of note is that holding X only works if you set the memory cursor. Otherwise it won't work.
Yeah. That can kind of catch you off guard too. Shoot. BGG still got the slow spell.
But it looked like Luca resisted the slow, actually. Which can happen, as I've learned today.
Yeah, I think he was in the correct window. And if he'd attacked with Chrono at the very beginning, I think everything would have worked out. But we're really talking about very minor time saves here. Basically, being on RNG just means you don't need to heal as much, and you cut out enemy attacks for the most part.
Also now Frog joins us. Or G, as he's mostly renamed.
Yeah, he's all green and slimy. Luca's not a big fan, but... Oh, lunchtime. I thought he was going for the revive, but I guess he just wasn't able to pick it up.
I thought so as well. It's a very nice safety. Oh, he's going for the fade out power tab though.
Yeah. So the fade out power tab is a minor time save, but it does save time. But you need to hit it in 2 fades in order for it to save time.
I guess we might have to explain fade outs then now. I
Yeah,
thought they weren't going into it yet, but so
basically
one
just
thing
want to
is,
think about it. Oh, you can go ahead.
what you can do in this game is when you get to a screen transition and the screen fades out to black, you can press the menu button and cancel it, and then it starts to fade out again. And you can abuse that by, for example, as you've seen there, grab some triggers or grab some items or even grab a save point while doing that.
Yeah, it's pretty versatile. Storing your transition to the other room, walking onto a battle, and then you cause the battle to trigger, but the transition takes priority over the battle, so it just takes you to the previous room instead of having to fight the fight, and the game thinks that you fought it. It's pretty easy. And you can also use it to store other properties, like being able to save.
And the game usually doesn't expect you to be in the room twice and the fights or the triggers still being there, so in most cases you skip some things if you fade out.
Lunchtime, really having some second thoughts about picking up that heal. He decides against it.
And on his screen you can see the first fade out that in combination with the save anywhere setup and some more menuing.
Yeah, the unequipped glitch as well, which is very important here. You want to be able to take the armor off most of the characters you're going to be using, because it'll protect you from most magic in the game except for fire, and give you quite a big boost to your magic attack as well.
But as you might have guessed, you get slightly more damage from physical attacks because you're not wearing armor.
I don't think BGG safety saved before doing the Yakra skip, so I'm glad he hit it. This is something that once you enter the Yakra room, there is no coming back.
So yeah, as you've seen, you save past the trigger where the boss is supposed to be. And because you did that, you're allowed to run around. And if you kind of like trigger the boss fight, but move the boss off screen, the game thinks, oh, the boss is not on screen anymore, so I guess you must have killed him.
Yeah. Queen Len's getting pretty comfy with Yakra there right now. Yeah, most of the movement that you saw on both screens there was basically just a way to advance text a little bit quicker. When you scroll a character off screen, their text, whether it's one frame that's written or the text box just starting to open, if you scroll them off screen, it'll disappear, and you can save quite a bit of time doing that.
Usually you want to just mash text, but in that circumstance it makes sense to move the characters off screen. I mean, you can do
don't
both.
get too many opportunities like that during the game.
Yeah. And story-wise, we managed to get Marla back because we apparently defeated Yakra.
Yeah. She discovered the cold, hard truth of messing with the timeline. And what's the first thing she wants to do after that? I believe it's messing with the timeline. Spoilers.
I think she wants to go home first and then mess with the timeline again. But yeah, you've seen on lunchtime screen, he avoided frog there because if you don't, you get, like, I think quite long cutscenes, 5 seconds.
Yeah, he's a pretty sad
seconds.
frog. He needs someone to talk to. So reverse bird skip coming up for lunchtime and background guy. Basically, saving here is going to trick the game into thinking that this room is the same as when you first entered it. So you entered it from this particular entrance instead of the first one. So the battles are loaded differently, and you're able to squeeze by without having to get into a battle there. They're also reloading in a specific RNG window to have a very favorable Dragon Tank fight.
And they've both gone for the bandana setup, I think.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different ways.
Yeah, there's lots of ways to do that, but you have, like, I think a 2 or 3 pixel? No, 4 pixels, I think, in this window.
Yeah, it's a pretty big window, actually.
And Chrono's bandana is exactly 4 pixels, so you can use that to align yourself with the bridge to not get into the encounter.
Again, just kind of getting corner pushed. Alright, so Luca ran off. She left us to bring Marley back to the castle. What could go wrong?
I think casually you could still go to the fair, right?
Yeah.
So even though you have only 2 characters, you can still, if you want to.
Yeah, going for that full not guilty. Get the 5 ethers. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Alright, so we're just heading into the trial, and it's one of my favorite parts of the game. It really is very thematic.
Yeah, and this is all the stuff that we've been talking about with guilty and not guilty. Because Chancellor thinks you kidnapped Mal. So since back in the past they instated a system to punish those crimes after you kind of defeated Yakra, and they talked about it, you get this nice trial here.
And so there's really just 2 text choices that these players need to make in the entire trial, and then there's a coin flip on whether they get guilty or not guilty. Guilty is going to save them about 8 seconds, but really it's all up to Pierre right here, extreme lawyer, fighting for our not guilty verdict. Even though, like, secretly we want guilty, and we sort of let him know that, he's just too good of a free lawyer. He's gonna fight for us.
And for the speedrun, you want to pick the options that Marle did it. Did start the whole thing, and it was not your idea, and that you are tempted by her ransom.
Lunchtime making the right choice. Alright, so it's the second juror that's the coin flip. Alright, lunchtime. Pulling a little bit ahead.
Of time.
But if BGG gets guilty as well, then he'll close that gap again.
Oh, he didn't get it. It's not his fault though, it's just random.
Yeah, Red Slash was saying on the previous run that when it does the flashback to when you run into Marle, when you go back into this trial sequence here, it's that frame that chooses whether you're guilty or not guilty.
Yeah, and the frame is like 1/60th of a second, so pretty much random to most humans.
And funnily enough, it's the exact same RNG table as everything in this game. It just looks at the first 60 values of it.
Marle still tried, but it was in vain. Still going to be sent to prison.
Yeah, but still try to figure out why they put Chrono in prison with his sword.
Good question.
Like, Dalton was obviously smart enough, so that was a thing. So very important to drink from the cup here. Let's see if Lunchtime can get any swag frames. No. You can actually get halfway back from Chrono's starting position after drinking from the cup there.
And also you want to safety save, especially in a race.
Yeah.
Just in case you have to reload. Because there are backup reloads that you can do at certain points in the game if you somehow get off the intended route.
Alright, so we're looking for a 60 here. With the 2 power tabs we put on Chrono and the power glove that we picked up, plus the steel saber, the highest possible damage roll is a 60. And the reload that we did promised us the 60.
And you get one of the longest fade outs.
Yeah.
At least in this category. I don't know if it's longest in the game.
I think there's a couple that are longer, but in this category, it's definitely the longest fade out.
Oh.
And it's very easy to lose time, either by dropping your fade out, or just by taking it safe and opening up your menu a few more times just to make sure that you get it. Optimal fade outs are very difficult to hit consistently.
And BGG also got the 60, so he's also on route.
All right, lunchtime got caught by the old Garderino. There goes one of those crits we were saving up for the dragon tank. I think he knows the backup. I think the backup's in the notes, actually, if you get caught by one of the guards. Might be on, like, the 100% notes or something.
It might be.
But I also think that each guard fight is slightly different, so I'm not sure if the backup works for the first or second guard. Alright, so lunchtime being a lead, but I feel like after the dragon tank fight, as long as background guy stays on the correct RNG, he might be able to catch up or even pull ahead a little bit.
Those were some nice shield guy skips right there from both runners. You have a couple of pixels to align yourself and just run straight through them without triggering the fight.
Yeah, no saves for lunchtime. He knows his backups.
Okay.
There is a scripted backup, but like I said, I'm not sure if it works on that guard or not. Generally, I just fall back to the 3 fire whirls, and it kills the body and the wheel really quickly.
Did he actually pick up the mid-tonics from the body?
I think he picked up mid-tonics from one of the guards, but not the 5 mid-tonics from the last guard.
Okay. Yeah, he's doing the backup strats.
Yeah, so thanks to the unequipped glitch on Luca, she gets a pretty big boost to her magic attack, and you're actually able to take out the body and the wheel. Oh no, he's doing the scripted backup.
Oh, okay. It looked like the backups.
So yeah, BGG should almost certainly pull ahead here. He's getting all the crits exactly where he wants them.
And usually in this fight you want to do what lunchtime is doing and I think kill the wheel and the body first and then the head. But because we manipulate the crits, so we on BGG's side he can kill the head first.
Yeah. So Lunch has to deal about 600 damage, and this head's going to be healing for 70 sporadically. Yeah, BGG definitely pulled ahead. And he's going to gain a little bit more too on the later fights, which are still in line with the script. Still a lot more run to go, though. There's a lot of really tough platforming here in the future.
And lunchtime is not that far behind, actually.
No. It just goes to show Lunch had to take a couple turns off to heal, which meant that the enemy got a chance to heal itself more, so he had to do more damage and more attacks. The big loss was the loss of the critical manipulation, though. Another corner push by lunchtime to skip a couple text box of dialogue. Alright, so the Chancellor is showing his magical jumping abilities.
He likes to jump. Just wants everyone to know.
Don't just stand there after them. Yeah, these guys are not very far apart at all. Yeah, so just a little bit of contemplating here. Luca's the only one who's really a voice of reason. Jumping into this portal, which goes where we have no idea where it will take us, is probably a bad idea. Chrono stands there with his thinking face, and
and you just take a random portal to who knows where.
Chancellor makes a large face too. Very large face. Alright, so coming into lab 16, really the main thing that you're looking for is to use the rat text boxes in combination with opening treasure boxes to walk over fight triggers and skip them entirely. BGG got the quick cycle there first. Same with lunchtime. BG set up for another quick cycle. Yeah, both players getting really nice lab 16s. Oh, wow. Lunchtime almost missed that, but he still made it through.
Also, the rats will steal tonics from you if you have multiple. And if you don't have any, they will steal 500G every time.
Yeah, for this category, the money loss doesn't really matter. All right. I'm glad to see both players did that very, very well. This area that BGG just went through and lunchtime is about to squeeze through, it's actually really tough to get through there quickly. There's a lot of edges and corners and stuff that'll stop you and get you caught. But it is a lot faster than going all the way around too.
And upcoming is the screen why we changed controls in the first place. Because in this room, you will hear the... Oh, BG just did it there. You hear the siren, and if you press menu normally, which is on X, you will trigger the boss fight here. But if you switch your controls to something else, then it won't trigger because it's hard-coded to be the X button.
Lunchtime popping a shelter in a bit more convenient spot. Not quite sure why, but...
Probably for some better scrolling with L&R, I would guess.
Feel like you lose any advantage by moving it there, though. But I suppose that wouldn't have happened anyway, since he missed both the revive and the heal. Because when you pick up items in a certain order, it pops them in your inventory as you pick them up. And you kind of want to get the shelter to be one L press, which will scroll an entire page worth of items in your inventory, so you can get to the shelter much quicker.
And you see both runners had to catch the rat, because otherwise you can't progress. You have, even though you know which buttons you have to press at the console, you have to catch the rat. Also, a nice thing is if you change your controls, like your confirm button, it's the new confirm button that you have to press there.
What if you put L as confirm?
Yeah, if you switch X and A, for example, you have to hold LR and press X.
Alright, this fade out that Lunchtime's doing right now that BGG just finished, it saves about 1.5 minutes. You really don't want to forget to do this fade out.
And you also don't want to forget to go into the room again to see the rest of the cutscene.
Yeah, that can also cause an issue.
And here's what we were talking about. Marlo wants to alter timelines again. Worked fine the last time, right?
Yeah. I mean, I get where she's coming from. This future does not look very promising. But she's talking about, like, erasing everyone who lives here.
Feels bad, man.
Because these people are all like 300 years past that point. Butterfly effect dictates that there would not be the same people. Lunchtime taking it a little tricky there.
Once you get out of that area, the people there are like, what did you find out? And your party's like, yeah, it's our future. And they're like, who cares? Where's the food?
Be still my heart. Why would you want to erase these people from time? They just want their nachos, man.
And afterwards, the elder is like, you are pretty weird. You have this bike key. There used to be a bike to the east. Maybe you can do something with it.
Alright, so BGG entering the Johnny race here first. Really, the first race is just for bragging rights and, well, the right to go past. You do kind of want to stay in front of Johnny as much as you can. You don't necessarily need to go for the craziest strats, but bouncing off the back of him, well, it is safe and it'll make sure that you make it through. If you're going for speedrun strats here, you kind of want to consider bouncing off in front of him as much as you can.
Yeah, and don't forget to use your boost. Also,
BGG
if you
plays this game a lot, so
yeah.
he's pretty good at this.
Once your rest is at about the 40 mark, you want to not be behind Johnny and use your boost, so you can assure that you win.
Alright. Good race for BGG. 1,500 points.
1,500?
Oh my god.
That was really close.
Oh my goodness. He is so lucky.
It was all calculated. No luck involved. And yeah, for this fight, this is one of the reasons we equipped the Berserker on Marl. Because once she crits, she will kill one of those buggers. It also crit the other one.
Yeah, 2 crits here are really nice, and that's the benefit of having the proper Dragon Tank fight. Looks like he's going to get a couple crits. And a Cyclone just to be sure.
And also to set the Cyclone for the next fights that are upcoming as well.
Yeah.
And you have seen on lunchtime screen, you have to walk across those stairs and the upper platform. Otherwise you trigger the fight there.
And that's a fight you can't run away from, so it's pretty bad to get into it.
And we get to meet Robo.
The almighty Bobo.
As he calls himself, R-66Y.
So we'll see what they decide to rename Robo to. There's a lot of choices that people go to, but J is the only right name. Oh, we got Bobo. Bobo's the second right name for sure.
I need to correct myself. It was R66-Y. Sorry, haven't played that game a lot.
Of all the characters that you could rename, Robo's the one that doesn't really cost that much time. Yeah, we got a J on lunchtime side. And that's because J is strictly faster.
Is that confirmed?
Yeah.
Does renaming Luca to CA also save time?
Background guy having to walk again.
Maybe he has secret strats that we don't know.
So we're seeing a shelter on the outside, save, and the first fight for BGG, which will also be on script. So this is only going to be 2 attacks for him, whereas I predict lunchtime having 4 or even more attacks to kill this first slime.
Yeah, because the asset has very high defense and even a crit can do like 1 damage. But yeah, that was on script. You want to wait a little bit until Bobo's ATB fills. So you get the crit with him.
A 4, a 1, yeah. Unfortunately, these. Oh, that was almost okay. Shoot, this attack will guaranteed kill it because it's only got 1 HP left. These guys have 10 HP and the green guys have 9, but the acids have a much higher defense. The orange slimes, but lunchtime still could catch up.
Yeah, definitely. You've seen on BGG's screen, he was doing some weird movements. That's basically to skip the fights that are invisible in there. So by moving a certain way, you avoid them.
This is a fight that lunchtime needs. This is a pretty rough one. Like I said, these guys are harder to kill for sure. So if lunchtime can get, 3 or 4 greens, he might be able to pull right back into the tie or even ahead.
Yeah, and you've seen there, if you hit a green one while he's next to an orange one, you trigger a counterattack.
Yeah, normally a rocket punch will one-shot those guys, but it's not 100% consistent, unfortunately, and that's what happened there. Lunchtime not getting much of a better fight.
Yeah, it all depends on how they move as well.
Yeah, looks like he wasn't able to kill it with a rocket punch either, but BGG is having a hell of a time getting his last couple acids to actually die because he keeps on hitting them for 1.
You actually want to...
Lunchtime is getting some good damage rolls here. Oh, but yes, heal.
You may want to pay attention to Chrono's MP here, because you need at least, I think it's 8, but it's better to have 10 for the R-Series fight. I mean, 8 is the bare minimum you need for the cyclones.
8 you should be fine with.
I always try to go for having at least 10. So if you mess up somewhere in between, you still have 1 cyclone left.
Alright. These guys are pretty much exactly where they were at the start of the slime fight. I was hoping it would kind of shake things up a little bit. But yeah, lunchtime's trailing by about 15-20 seconds, not a little bit more.
Yeah, and after the fight you want to heal with Robo, with his Cure Beam, but only Chrono and Luca, because Robo won't be fighting. Also, the door lock says to enter the password, which is just the buttons on the controller, X, A, B, and Y.
Yep.
Which you can just hold.
Yeah. That blew my mind the first time I heard it, man.
Same.
Because I remember watching runners, and I'm like, how are they putting that code in so fast? I just can't move my fingers like that.
Yeah. You don't have to press them in sequence. You just hold all of them at once. Easy every time. And here Bobo finds others of his kind, and they say he's defect.
So these guys are going to go for a pretty simple strat on the surface. They want to use 4 cyclones to take out the front and back row. 2 cyclones for each row. The hard part is these guys are really fast. And if you're slow on your cyclones, you might invite a whole other round of attack, which is about 90 damage. And you're already going to be eating 1 round from the back and maybe 2 rounds from the front.
Lunchtime showing off some nice swag there. Yeah, for this fight you want to double tap, as we call it.
Nice and fast for BGG.
Agreed. The reason you want to double tap and not mash is because you just want to select the cyclone and not just use it. Because if you mash, you might accidentally use it on just 2 of the R-series robots.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to go for the Luca attack strat. This just means that there's less chance of someone dying accidentally. And you can use the flame toss animation to input your cyclone, which will just make sure that you kill the back before they get any attacks off. Now that there's only 2 of them, it doesn't really matter. If you have like a character with low HP, 2 attacks really isn't going to kill them.
I believe that's how the fight was supposed to be.
Yeah, there's a couple different ways that you can do that, using the attack and the flame whirl on Luca, or you can just use a mid-tonic with Luca. Since you're never really sure which RNG window you're on because the slime fight is random, you pretty much just have to kind of go with the flow and hope you're fast enough. The other thing you're hoping for is that you don't get, like, you know, you're too slow and you don't have any healing items or something like that.
Yeah, and if you picked up the revive, you have extra safety there in case someone dies. Because you really want that experience.
Yeah, for Luca, and especially for full game runs, like, Luca definitely needs that XP. But for Masamune, she needs the XP, and I think even Nizbel, although I think things kind of even out after Nizbel.
We see background guy going to the end of time here. Because he has more than 3 characters he gets sent here. And what we want to do here is talk to the old man. Get some story progression, I guess you could say.
Yeah. If text boxes weren't here, you pretty much have to talk to him. Try and leave, or talk to the bucket. Then talk to him again, and then you can make your way into Specchio. There's a lot of different, like, text and stuff that you have to do.
And here we want to leave Bobo behind. Because we want to learn magic in the room back there, and he can't. Or I guess you can say he already can inherently.
Yeah, he draws magic from a 9-volt battery. So big thing here, lunchtime, is just try not to talk to the door until he's completely finished clearing the old man text. If you try and open the door before that text is done, you'll get an extra text box.
So we need everyone in the chat to sync magic.
Yeah.
And if you want, you can also run around your room 3 times. Just to make sure that everything goes smoothly.
Shime's cutting those corners a little tight. But it looks like he's okay.
Yeah, you don't have to actually run around all the room. You just have to hit specific points in the room.
So I'm not sure which routing background guy uses here. He might be going to get a speed tab, he might not be. For the 100% route, you definitely need to go grab that speed tab at some point, whether it's now or later.
And he did get the cake and dash.
Yeah, Cake and Dash is a really cool skip.
I think he's going for the antipode, my strats.
He might be.
Because he also grabbed the magic tab up there.
Kick and Dash for lunchtime too. Basically just using something which we'll see again in a little bit. When you swap party members, you can kind of overwrite the game, preventing you from moving. And there's only certain times where you're able to do it, and that was one of them. Alright, so Slash, Flame Toss takes out these guys. And now we're going to try and run away before Marley's Berserker gets an attack off. It's not going to mess with your RNG or anything, but you're basically just trying to avoid extra animation time.
And we also managed to learn Antipode and Aura Whirl, the dual attacks from Marle and Luca and Marle and Chrono. And even if you don't do the Lesser Immune Antipode, you still use the Antipode later on in the game.
Lunchtime skipping the tabs, so pretty much catching up here. Another use of the fade out to skip another fight. And another corner push here. This one's a little tricky. But yeah, get around that bat trigger.
And I don't know if we mentioned it yet, but you can run away from runnable fights by just holding the run buttons and entering your menu.
Yeah. It's a nice little side effect of having the ATB set to wait mode, where everything stops while you're in your menu, but your run cursor still fills up, or your run counter, I guess you call it. BGG going for the skip, looks good.
Yep. Lunchtime going for the slightly harder setup.
Yeah. So the one BGG uses has a bigger window, and you don't need to do any release B shenanigans to put yourself on the right run cycle. Instead of lunchtime used, you need to let go of the run button just a tiny little bit, and it puts you in the right run cycle. But both players hitting this.
But it looks like BGG forgot to swap Marle out of the party.
Like you said, he might be actually going for Antipode strats. And he still might need to swap in Robo if he's going for End of Time Save Anywhere.
Oh yeah, right. It's upcoming.
Because that'll be another instance of swapping your party members to regain control when you're not supposed to.
Yeah, that's a really technical glitch right there.
And the routing is just so perfect, since there's 2 swaps you need to make for your party. You use one of the swaps for the Cake and Dash, and then the other swap for this End of Time Save Anywhere. Background guy, yeah. So you have to kind of hold your run direction as you come out of the portal, and it sets up player 2 and 3 in a slightly offset position, which will help you with your setup. Background guy gonna go pause or just double tap and pray.
Oh, and he got it.
Nice one. So Lunchtime's going to do an unpause setup. Nice. I love seeing both players hit it. Yes. Because that's about a 30 to 40 second loss if you miss end of time save anywhere. You can get save anywhere elsewhere, but you lose time for the setup. Ooh, looks like BGG got in the fight. Lunchtime using some pause buffer strats and pulling ahead. So we've got to talk to the captain to start this whole fetch quest, essentially. The ironic fetch quest. We have to go get the jerky to feed the guards. But because we're a bunch of glitching players, we're actually not even going to give them... pardon. We're not even going to give them the jerky.
We're gonna attempt to skip the guards and then skip the boss fight afterwards as well. Because who needs boss fights anyways?
A little more text canceling, same as the acro skip. Just bring him off screen. You want to make sure that you close his last text box before you actually leave that room, otherwise the game doesn't count it as happening, and you have to go and do it again. This guy's so overly dramatic too. He's talking about his brother, the captain. It's like, tell that fool to come back alive. Alright, so this is another really tricky sort of frame rule positioning thing. So, gonna do a couple of release Bs. Oh, I think that looked good too. Giving BGG a chance to catch up now. That's definitely good.
Yeah, that looked very good.
Yep, BGG hit it first try, closing the gap. And Lunchtime's second one looked really good there too. Yep.
Second one for BGG looks good as well.
Alright, solid. So 57-52 exit for Lunchtime and a 57-59 exit for Background Guy. Looking at a 7-second difference.
And BGG is going to do more unequipping.
Yeah.
So he's definitely going for the Antipode Massimium.
Yeah. So he's going to lose a little bit of time versus Lunchtime. Lunchtime is going to do this shop menu eventually. But Background Guy is unequipping an extra character in Marley because he's using a strat which is certainly a lot more consistent than the Berserker strat that we've seen some other racers struggle with. So Lunchtime's doing a tricky fight here to set up his RNG. And Background Guy actually gets a bunch of healing items, so mid-tonics and revives. So if anything goes wrong, he is ready to deal with it. Whereas Lunchtime's skipping that shop until after the mountain here.
Yeah, also, if anything goes wrong, BGG also still has Chrono, who is controllable.
Yeah, that's really the big danger of the Berserk fight here, is Masamune, after he does his intro, which is 2 attacks, like 2 punches and then a wind attack, he'll go into tornado storage where he'll counter every attack with a magical air-based attack. And since nobody's unequipped except for Luca, it does way too much damage for our severely underleveled characters.
And Lunchtime is going to pick up the speed up here. I'm pretty sure BGG can skip that because he got the one in the houses.
Yeah. He might pick it up just based on, like, sort of route muscle memory, but he definitely doesn't need it for this particular category. So as it stands right now, the only difference between these two players is the fact that Background Guy has already done his shopping. But there is going to be about another 15 to 20 seconds difference in time gain on lunchtime side, simply because the Berserker is a very powerful item. Yeah, he does pick up the speed tab.
He does pick it up. Just muscle memory, I guess.
Yeah, BGG normally runs the 100% category for this game, and that is something that you do pick up on that. It's not really that big of a time loss. Yeah, so Lunchtime's going to be very careful here. If he's slow on any of his attacks, the Berserk Chrono is going to attack the wrong guy. You want all your attacks focused on the right twin here, or the left twin, which is the correct twin. He doesn't counter you if you attack him, whereas the right twin will. EGG's strat, I believe, is going to be using Hypno Wave to put the twins to sleep, which also stops them from being able to counter, and then he's going to use a bunch of slashes and anapodes to kill this version. This is where the majority of the time save is, I think.
And BGG is on the correct RNG for the old strategies so far. I still have those notes.
Honestly, I really think that this strat is probably the safest bet for races, unless you're very, very comfortable with the Berserk strat. And I know he was spending some time learning the Berserk strat, but I don't think he's comfortable with it just yet.
Yeah, I actually agree. I think the antipode is very safe, especially because you have Chrono controllable in the Massa and Moon fight.
Yeah, that extra damage on the Berserker, though, it's pretty sick. Because Chrono's attacks normally do about 80. The Berserker bumps it up to about 120. And then his crits double that as well. So it's a lot of damage.
And lunchtime is good on Chrono's ATB. There's a certain point in the fight where you have to watch out for Robo's ATB. And if it's not at the correct spot, you have to wait in the menu with Luca.
Yeah, that's kind of the big thing with this fight. When you make your inputs, you kind of want to do it during the animation of another thing that's happening, because the way that Masamune moves, it'll be different if you don't finish inputting the attack before the animation finishes. It's weird because he like slips a little bit in his movement, and since his targeting is based on proximity as well as like how much health you have, he can kind of go off on you and hit you where you're not expecting it.
And I think BGG is off script now, but he can manage. Yeah.
Yeah, having Chrono in control of his senses and being able to spot heal when you need. As you see, the slash counter does pretty much nothing with unequipped characters, whereas if Chrono got hit by one of those and was fully equipped, he'd be getting hit for anywhere between 40 and 60 damage.
I think he's just slightly off, so he should be fine. And he should be about done, I think.
Yeah, one or two more hits, I think.
One more Chrono menu should do it. No. So he was slightly off then, okay. Yes, yeah, I miscounted, yeah. I miscounted. He was on script. So nice fight from both runners.
Yeah, so this is lunchtime doing his shopping.
Shopping and unequipping.
Yeah. The nice thing about this store is there's no text that you have to mash through. It just opens up the shop right away, which is why this shop is kind of preferable and why you want to save it till afterwards.
I actually think we haven't talked about the unequip glitch and how to do it yet.
Yeah, I don't think we talked about that.
So the way you do it is you go to one character. For example, you go to Chrono if you want to unequip the character after him. And you go onto his accessory or onto his armor slot and you press up and right at the same time. If you don't have any armor or any helmets in your inventory. And then the game thinks you are still on the accessory like line, I guess I could say. But
it's like BackgroundGuy is turning in the jerky for that 100% strat.
Oh, I see. But you can still unequip it. Like the game thinks you want to change accessories, but in reality you just equip. I think it's a null armor.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an armor. It doesn't have a name. It's kind of a placeholder.
Oh, we got the double news.
Nice.
Everyone's getting a new.
It's kind of like Red Slash explained it to me as, you know how sometimes you get a random like cursor sound sometimes? It's just like a little glitch or something. The cursor movement sound is actually sound number 0, so it's like the first on the list. And the null armor from unequip is kind of the same thing. It's like the first on the list of armors and helmets, kind of a placeholder. And that's what we're equipping.
Yep. I mean, we explained what it does, but I don't think we explained how to do it. In case someone wants to try.
Yeah, it can be a little bit tricky. You can put yourself into a situation where you can no longer unequip without picking up or buying some more equipment. So it's always good to sort of think about what you're doing before you go too far and like sell too much stuff.
And it not only works with up and R, it also works with down and L.
Yeah.
The only limitation is you can't swap from the first to the last character.
Yeah.
Or from the last to the first. Like the party on the party screen.
So that means until late game, the only way to unequip a Chrono is to have someone with an extra weapon in the second party slot and no helmet or armor on Chrono.
Exactly.
Alright, so lunchtime has done the fade out on Melchior, and he's off to the deep past, prehistory, and about to meet the best character in the entire game.
And this is, I believe there's a certain time you want to close the text boxes there, so you get a favorable position here. And I don't think I've seen anyone use Firewall yet. That's new to me, at least.
Yeah, I think it might be a backup if you end up yeah, if you miss the text boxes, because he did, the guys didn't move the right way.
Oh, see.
It's not a backup I'm aware of, but I don't think it really matters too much, because there's this fight and then 2 more fights, and there's no crits manipulated, so as long as you don't do too many extra moves, you should still be in the right windows to sort of move forward correctly. Yeah, it looks like BGG just barely missed the window there as well. So he's going to do a slightly different fight where he's going to slash Antipode and slash again. Probably not that much difference time-wise. Because the nice thing about battles that you can run away from is the RNG will always jump to a certain value at the beginning of each of these battles. And if you run away before anything happens, you know exactly what your RNG value is, even for crits, at the end of any fight that you run away from. If you have a bunch of fights in a row that you run away from, which we'll see later in Magus' castle, it actually kind of funnels your RNG down to only a couple possible windows. So it kind of normalizes and equalizes you on any little mistakes you might have made. Or you make a big mistake and everything is
the time for BGG to catch up.
Yeah, that's exactly what BGG needs to catch up here. I'm not sure if Lunchtime's just going to go for it, or if he's going to do the reload before heading into the Reptite lair. Yeah, it's kind of a double whammy, because A, you get in the battle, but B, you also mess up your RNG.
And
Okay.
for the party, we want to switch out Marlon with Robo.
Yeah, we still might be going dancing. I don't know when BGG normally swaps her out. There it is. Okay.
Yep. I mean, Lunchtime is still dancing.
Yeah, he must have had too much coffee for lunch. All right. So the main way to just progress through this cutscene, you talk to Robo. You let him stand up and sit down a couple times, and once he starts blinking, you want to talk to him one last time, and then talk to Ayla. That's all you really need to do. If you have Marley in your party, then you have to dance with her, and that takes quite a bit of time.
Yep.
And then mash your way through the soup cutscene.
Yep. And in the soup cutscene, it is the original A button, no matter your controls.
Yeah.
So even if you change it, you still have to press literally A. And story-wise, we wake up after the party with lots of soup and find out that our gate key was stolen by someone. So we have to find Ayla and tell her we need her help. Because obviously she knows more about this time period than we do.
Yeah. And unfortunately for our robot, who would be really cool to have with us, we're gonna default to having Luca.
And he just magically gets sent to the end of time.
Without a gate key, somehow.
Without a gate key. That's why it's magic.
Another fade out here. This just skips some cutscenes. Kino's a very long-winded and annoying character. And we want to skip as much as we can of him.
I've heard that a lot. No one seems to like Kino. And there's usually lots of fights in this area, but we try to avoid them all.
Yeah, pretty much any place that there's footsteps, there's going to be a fight trigger somewhere. But you can just use the way that corners and walls work to make sure that you never hit anything.
Very nicely done by Lunchtime. And I guess he's going to reload.
Yeah, this is the place to reload. It's kind of a long reload. You got to wait a bit. Luckily, there's metronomes and animated GIFs that'll help you time it. It's like 3.6 seconds, I think. Pretty long load.
That's a very long one. But it seems he got it.
Yeah, it's at the very end of the window. I think it's F3. And from 00 to FF, you need to wait that many frames.
And BGG is
Like,
still on the correct one, and he caught up a lot, actually.
Yeah, he did.
And we want to do specific things in these fights to set up the RNG seed for Nisbel correctly and the crits and everything. Nisbel is the upcoming boss fight that we have to fight.
Sorry about the audio jumping. That was my bad. All right. Nice little squeeze by there from lunchtime. Basically just like a timing thing. You need to move coming out of the door, otherwise you get sucked into the battle, but then you just kind of have to wait for this guy to start moving down, and then you're good to squeeze by him.
And we want to do some equipping and unequipping. Basically, we want the Ruby Vest from Ayla, give her the Berserker, and equip Chrono with the Magic Scarf, so he has more magic.
This is so close.
This is really close.
I think lunchtime might pull a little bit further ahead. There's a slightly newer Nisbel strat which saves a couple seconds by eliminating one of his attacks.
Oh yeah, the one where you don't get the quake, right?
Yeah. Yeah, normally you wait for Ayla to attack and then Nisbel to do his attack before you use a Chrono Lightning. It kind of makes the Berserk lineup a little bit better for Ayla. But if you wait and get it just as Luca's turn comes up. Yeah, this is kind of nice to see these two strats side by side.
I think PGG actually attempted it. Or at least it looked that way. But yeah, even if you are completely off RNG, this fight is not too scary if you don't let Nisbel physically attack you. Just after he releases lightning, you want to cast another lightning with Chrono.
And hopefully that's the last release.
Yeah. So he keeps being shocked and his defense is decreased.
Alright, so this it's just a couple more slashes on lunchtime's side. This last one's a little bit tight. You need to mash it pretty hard. And if you miss it, you need to wait for Chrono's turn again. Looks good. Yeah, there's really not that much difference in these strats. Because they're still only a couple seconds apart. This is pretty darn close.
And story-wise, you get the gate key back for whatever reason.
Yeah. Asla doesn't have a big dinosaur to protect him.
Could have just taken it away, just run. And yeah, you have seen on lunchtime screen, he did some quick diagonal movement there. That's in order to skip a text box.
Alright, so both these players need to make sure they pick up the Berserker on the way out here. It was kind of an unintuitive discovery to pick up the Berserker on the way out, because it's just like right there, you might as well pick it up going through, but if you pick it up on your first time down, the dinosaurs really get in your way, just with that little extra time that you spent to go pick it up. So picking it up on your way out just means that those dinosaurs never get in your way.
This is really close. It's like 8 seconds, I think, is the difference right now.
It's some good mashing through the cutscenes to be a tie difference.
The next thing we want to do is go to Melchior and fade out into the basement this time. And we want to switch Robo with Marle, because otherwise you get to see Robo do stuff in this cutscene, and we don't want that.
Yeah, if Robo is doing his animations, then you're not really able to speed up Melchior. Sometimes we only use it a little bit during the run, but if you run into an NPC, you can speed them up. It doesn't always work. Like when they're moving, it's kind of 50-50 on whether you speed them up or slow them down. But when they're stationary and he's nodding his head, you can run into him and it will speed his timer up a little bit, because the game's kind of waiting for Robo to move and do his things. But since he's not doing that, you can kind of coax him ahead.
And suddenly Robo is back and into your party, and he has the mezzanine. It's weird how magic works. Now that you have the Messamune, you want to go back to 600 AD and show it to our resident frog.
Yeah, he'll not. Sorry, he won't be sure what to make of the sword, and he's going to invite us to spend the night in his mud hole.
Yep, he needs some time to think what to do with a sword made of magic.
Yeah, background guy making sure to get it past that bird skip this time. This is the one that matters the most. Otherwise, he's going to have to reset before entering Magus' castle.
Yeah, and you even have to remember that you failed it in the first place.
Yeah, that too.
After all those cutscenes.
There's some indicators from the rats that attack you on whether you're still in the correct window or not.
Ooh, another new for background guy.
This guy, always lucky. Yeah. These guys are about 6 seconds apart. Yeah, so this is kind of a bit of a downtime for the run. This is 2-3 minute long unskippable cutscenes. But they're pretty epic. You get to learn about Magus and Frog and how Glenn's a marshmallow.
And Cyrus. And and Nirvana Strike. You also get to see that.
Yeah.
And even a giant frog.
Alright, so there's a lot of weird stuff that goes on in this cutscene. I'm not really sure if the princess or the queen here, if she's more interested in Cyrus or Glenn as they're leaving. I assume she's more worried about Glenn because he doesn't have armor or a sword.
Makes sense. I mean, he also doesn't have Nirvana Strike, so...
Yeah. Imagine if you just Nirvana Strike any frog, will a hero's badge pop out? Because, I mean, if that's what you needed to wield the Messamune...
Too bad you can't try, because Nirvana Strike is not in the game.
Background guy is shaking his head. So,
mean, the cutscenes are nice to get some background on, and no pun intended, on Frog and how he became a frog, basically.
first off, to survive a fall like that, it's pretty heroic in its own right.
I mean, he basically was charged with magic, so it has to be magic, right? And you see, even the characters are sleeping. They're like, more cutscenes.
Chrono's not picky, and it looks like Luca prefers cold metal. Yeah, no one slept in the bed.
The bed is just there for show.
Last chance for a new. None on lunchtime side. BGG gonna get extra lucky? No.
Nope. You've seen both runners swap their parties to Chrono, Frog, and Robo. It's gonna be important for the upcoming fights. But first, more cutscenes.
This is where we learn that Glenn is a marshmallow. Confirmed by Cyrus. It's essentially Reddit proven at this point.
You're a marshmallow.
There's just some really fun things that they did with the translation here. I still don't understand why they changed. Like, I can see changing the beer to soda later on, and but I mean, changing Skull Smash to soup doesn't quite make sense. I mean, I've never had soup with bugs in it, but I've definitely had alcohol with bugs in it.
Maybe there is some soup with bugs in it somewhere.
I mean, I won't knock it until I try it, but I'm not sure how I feel about bug soup. Perfectly fine with bug alcohol. So yeah, Frog demonstrates how he how was first brought into the world in frog form, passed out, tongue out.
But still sees the hero medal.
I feel like BGG's been mashing like crazy here to try and catch up, and I think he has caught up just a little bit, maybe.
I think
they were 4
really
seconds apart
close.
going into the cutscenes, so we'll see once they regain control exactly how far apart they are.
Laser sword. The only sword to cut mountains. Rip Mountain.
Alright, so we get full black at 31 when it fades in. 38 when it fades in. So they're about 7 seconds apart. Looks like lunchtime actually was the keen masher there. Saved a couple seconds over background guy.
Background guy got hit twice, but it's still fine.
Yeah, it was 19 and 23.
Yeah, he just has to heal before the slash fight.
Really? I didn't even think he needed to do that.
I am pretty sure you have to.
Oh, okay.
But only if you get hit twice.
I don't think I've ever done that. But I don't normally get hit twice either, so I'm not sure. The buggy bats on lunchtime screen.
It might also be that my notes are wrong, but who knows?
It's certainly a smart safety to consider with the extra damage.
And yeah, this area is really silent. There's no music here. Just to add to how dark this castle is, basically.
I kind of like the silence over the 6 minutes straight of one single chord.
That is true.
But yeah, basically each player is running up each side of the castle, just getting into the last room and then turning around. That's all you need to do to get the first fight here with Ozzy and his goons.
And as you've seen, it does not matter which side you go to first.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit faster if you go Slash's side first, just for the frames that you gain on the group up before the cutscene.
Okay, I did not know that.
Yeah, it's very minor, but it is a bit of a time save.
So what we want to see here is Crimson Rain on Frog. 46 is nice. 45 should also be fine. Both get a 46.
Yeah, you kind of expect the 46 if they didn't do a reload before the castle. The 45's kind of there as one of the other possible windows that still ends up being the right thing for the flea manipulation.
We also want to give Chrono the power scarf, unequip Frog's helmet, just his helmet, and give him the Ruby Vest and the Berserker. The Ruby Vest protects against fire.
Yeah, it's also the best armor by a lot that we have access to right now.
And I don't mean you don't take any damage, I just mean that you take reduced damage from fire.
Yeah.
Because, as we've explained earlier, even with the unequipped glitch, you're not protected against fire.
Funny thing, Flea's fire attacks aren't actually fire-based attacks. So the Ruby Vest does nothing.
Flea can attack?
Yeah, we won't see that this run. Essentially Frog's speed and Flea speed are the same, and they both get their turns at the same time, but Berserk gets priority, and then Flea gets kind of confused and tries to target someone again, and then Frog hits him again and again and again.
Yep.
Eventually we'll have to attack just a few extra attacks to make sure that we don't get any counters, but this is a nice little bathroom break.
I mean, you can do some things. You can count until Frog attacks 16 times. You can listen to music cues. You can basically find your own strat on when this breaks. Or I guess you could also wait for normal attacks and then a crit.
Yeah, that's normally what I end up looking for.
I actually like to count.
Yeah, sometimes I count too.
It keeps me busy. Because otherwise you don't do anything in this fight.
And it's very important that you do finish the fight correctly, because there's no reload onto the proper slash fight. There's a very specific window that we need to be in for the fight before slash to go the way we want in order for crits to be correct for the slash fight. Down on lunchtime side.
On both sides.
picking up a mid-ether. He's going to need that for the Magus fight a little bit later.
And it seems lunchtime gained a couple of seconds there. Should be about 10 to 11 seconds ahead now.
So I'm not sure if Background Guy is going to be going for the 8-frame mid-tonic fight. Oh wait, no, he's going to use the 100% fight anyway. Yeah. So we will see lunchtime gain a little bit more time here. Lunchtime's doing a strat that's a little bit newer. It basically just manipulates a couple extra crits for Frog, and it means that we can do less attacks with our other players. Again, sort of taking advantage of criticals plus Berserker bonus, so you get, plus 50% and then double that as well. So you're basically doing triple damage.
I actually do not know the 100% strats, so I need your help on that one.
I think the new slash fits in for 100% anyway.
Oh, okay.
This is just like the strats that were in the old 100%. Were Robo mid-tonic Frog instead of Chrono. But now it's just Chrono doing 2 mid-tonics at the beginning of the second phase for the one that we're going to see with lunchtime. So like I said earlier in the run, the way that criticals work is they're just a string, and at the beginning of your battle, you have your starting value, and you just go through the crits. Every player's attack will increment it by 1. So what you're going to see is Frog critting as much as possible, but you're going to see attacks from Chrono and Robo to sort of shoot blanks that wouldn't be a crit on Frog, and then Frog gets his crits. It's also going to be basically the same sort of strategy in the big picture on Background Guy's side. It's just the strategy that Lunchtime is using is a little bit newer and has a few more crits lined up.
Yeah, and I think if you get hit twice, you have to heal, because you saw that Chrono was on 6 HP at the end of the first round.
Yeah.
So if you get hit twice, you don't survive the last hit.
Yeah, that hasn't come up yet for me, so I'm kind of glad that I know that and not learning it firsthand in a run.
Nice. I know I put it in my notes specifically because it happened to me.
So the second phase of Slash can be a lot more dangerous. Basically just trying to get as many crits as we can with Frog. But once he gets down to his last 500 or 600 HP, he's going to start doing counters that hit for big damage. So we kind of want to just like hold back and let Frog do the final couple hits, because he's the one wearing the armor, no one else is. So he can actually take the hits and not just completely crumble to them.
Yeah, the good thing is we basically know what is happening in this fight.
Yeah.
So there's like a script laid out, like when he does that you do this, and afterwards you wait or you do something else.
Yeah, notice Lunchtime's just kind of sitting there waiting with Chrono and Robo. If he did anything with those guys, it would just be straight up slower than letting Frog crit for almost 400 damage on a single attack. Firing off a couple more blanks here so Frog can get the last couple crits.
And he's in the counter phase.
We should be seeing counter phase from BGG's side very soon here too. Nice fight.
Yep.
So 140.06 was when Lunchtime ended up in that menu there. Yeah, bit of a scarier fight for Background Guy, but that was intended. That's how that fight was supposed to go for him. That's what he wanted to have happen. And 36. So yeah, 30 seconds apart each player.
And we have one more menu. We want to equip the slasher on Chrono and the magic scarf and give Frog the hero medal. And obviously use shelter and save.
Yeah, shelter's pretty big. So this is the hallway of runnable fights.
I mean, you don't have to save, but you can. Since you're in the menu anyways.
I don't think there's anything that can kill you. Well, I mean, it can kill you, but it would have to catch you, like, super off guard. You'd have to have a couple extra attacks and then, like, I don't know. I don't want to commentate or curse anyone, so I'm not going to say anything.
I just know that the Magus reload is really hard.
Ooh, lunchtime, not waiting for those guillotines, just going head first into them. That already means that he's going to have to heal at some point here.
And yeah, as you see in BGG's, on BGG's side, you can run from those fights. I mean, casually you probably wouldn't, but you still can.
Those bats are sneaking up on lunchtime. Okay, pit room for lunchtime. Nice and quick.
It's very clean. I'm always scared when someone just runs through the room.
Yeah. There's some pretty cool setups I've seen from players. I like seeing the way different players approach it to get their own consistent way.
Also, you can skip those rolly riders, I think they're called. If they are moving down the stairs, like if they turn the corner, then you can sneak past them. Or you can just wait.
That was an even faster pit room from BGG. You can tell he really wants this.
And you see, we want to push this outlaw off screen, like out of bounds, I think, even.
Yeah.
So we can just run past him. Otherwise, we couldn't get past it and had to fight it.
Alright, so this middle fight you can run away from. Makes perfect sense.
Yep. Can't run away from the first one. Can run away from the second one.
Yeah, slashes do a ridiculous amount of damage to these groupies. Yeah, slurp cut, one shots the outlaws. Looks like lunchtime's doing robo strats on this fight.
Yeah, I was just wondering, did I miss something? I think those are the old strats, if I remember correctly. Not sure though.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen this one before.
I have seen that before. I know that. I just don't know where.
Maybe he just forgot to swap in Luca and was winging it. But I know he's been spending some time poking around with how the RNG progresses. Learning, growing. Maybe this is new stuff.
Might be. So yeah, in this room you can just avoid all encounters, just staying close to the walls.
With the lead
The last one
this
is
close, though.
The last one is kind of tricky though, because it's inside the stairs. And if you look up while going inside the stairs, you trigger it. But if you look sideways, you don't, for some reason.
Yeah, I think the trigger for the character might be more tied to like the front of them than the side of them. So by facing sideways, it's less likely to hit the trigger. Alright, do we get a 119 on this last hit? I'm really hoping so, and it looks like it should be.
It looks good, yeah. First one looked weird, but fine.
Yeah, we got a 119. A little menu pop off there from lunchtime to show his happiness of getting the 119. He is going to have to shelter because he got destroyed by the guillotines. I don't think Background Guy technically has to. But it... Oh wait, no, it looks like Frog got hit for him, so he probably will.
Not saving.
Alright.
And
so 119
good as well.
Nice. 119 basically is a tell. After the 4 switch fights, the RNG kind of funnels down, so it's only going to be one of 4 possible values at the end of this. And 119 is a good one. It's what we're looking for. It means that Magus is going to give us all the proper barriers. So as long as lunchtime executes this fight correctly, it's his race.
Oh. I hope you didn't just curse him there.
Oh, don't say it. I said it.
Yeah, you said it. I always love this music.
Yeah, it's very hype.
Last fight.
So hit for 30 and a shadow barrier is exactly what we want to see.
Yes.
So we never actually went and taught Frog any magic. So we're stuck with only 2 of 4 possible barriers that Magus can make. Luckily, with a scripted and manipulated fight, we should get the proper barriers all the way through. Fire's especially scary too.
Frog still has a role. He just decreases the magic defense because of the mass immune.
Yeah, there's something I don't ever think I knew when I played this game casually the first time. I don't think it was like quite spelled out well enough for me at that age anyway. So I think this fight's going to come down to whether lunchtime is able to hit the final bit of the fight. Because there's a way that you can sequence your attacks which will save you a little bit of time. Alright, healing up Frog because we don't want him to die. He's going to get attacked by Magus here pretty soon.
There are some tricky parts to this fight, like quick switches to Chrono.
Yeah, you're basically trying to minimize the amount that your ATP slips forward while getting as many crits and slashes in as you can.
Yeah, as you've seen there, the quick slash.
And sort of just delaying Frog's attack long enough that you can make your Chrono slash input. Lunchtime's waiting there for Chrono's turn. Attack the Frog just so that the ATP stops and you can make Chrono's input.
Also, I think BGG doing something slightly different. Or he has to, because he has one more magic tab used on Chrono.
Yeah, I think the Magus fight that Lunchtime's doing saves like 4 to 5 seconds over the strat that BGG is using. So one of those things about this game is it's kind of daunting to learn all of the strats, and sometimes the strats change. You might choose just to sort of keep doing what you're doing currently until you can learn and incorporate, because there's a lot of little pieces that end up sort of not moving the same way when you change a few little things.
That's actually what I did. Until I learned the Masamune part. Lunchtime is done.
Lunchtime finishes 151.36.
Yep.
That was awesome.
That was a really close race.
Yeah, this is an incredibly close race. Like, BGG's only got another couple hits here.
Should be less than a minute apart.
And it's got to be close. There it is. Only about less than a minute, like 50 seconds or so apart between these two.
Yep. That was a really close race for about a 2-hour run.
Yeah, that was close all the way through, pretty much. I think the only real places that either player, like Lunchtime, got in an extra fight, and BGG missed a couple bird skips, but otherwise everything was like right on the money. Both players executed their game plan well.
Agreed.
Lunchtime was in here earlier. I'm not sure if he's going to pop back in or not.
I can ask them if they want to join us for commentary.
Yeah, the minute of difference there, now that I'm thinking about it, it really just comes down to BackgroundGuy adopting a couple of the strats, and it's not even necessarily just Masamune. There's a little bit of time on Slash and Magus, because going into Magus's castle, there was about only 4 to 5 seconds between the two.
That was so much fun.
Glad you had fun Lunchtime. That was really fun for us to watch too.
Congratulations.
I can't believe how close it was.
That was really close.
Oh my god.
You guys were 4 seconds going into Magus's castle.
Really? Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna have to watch the replay on this. It sounds so hype.
Actually, I think it was 8 in the end. You were 4 seconds going into the cutscene, and then 8 going to the castle.
Woo! That's my first race ever, and a Magus PB for me. I'm so, like, my adrenaline's pumping. I don't even know what to do with myself.
Yeah, you played pretty good there, man.
Awesome, thanks.
Just a couple extra fights, and that was about it.
Yeah. Yeah, felt pretty good.
Is there anything in that run that you were specifically happy about?
Well, in the room with the 4 jugglers, there's something I wanted to try and pull off, but I kind of messed up with it, but I'm still kind of happy that it worked out, nonetheless.
I was wondering about that, actually.
Yeah, I was experimenting last night.
Yeah,
and we are also joined by BackgroundGuy.
Hey, good game, my dude.
Good game to you.
Yeah, that was
GG.
awesome.
clearly the practice paid off. Nicely done.
Yeah, you would have had me if you didn't give me those extra couple days. So, thank you for that. Being a gentleman.
I would rather you have the time you need to lay down a good race, and from what I can gather, it was close all the way through. So that's awesome. That's the best race I could possibly hope for, is one where it's close all the way through. It's what I want from a race every single time, win or lose.
I fist bumped pretty hard when both of you guys hit end of time save anywhere. Not gonna lie.
Oh yeah. Like the whole Zombor bridge, I was worried it was gonna bamboozle me because, I'm not quite consistent at it yet. But fist bump right there with you.
That was a very nice race, and it was basically close throughout all the race.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I look
to
forward.
10 seconds maybe, up until the Magus Castle end.
Wow. Like I said, I'm definitely gonna go back and watch it. I want to see how close this was. Just the whole way
it is
through.
very close.
Because I had to do a reset before the lair. So I was worried, I was like, oh man,
you
I'm
failed.
gonna lose this for sure now.
Did you fail third bird skip?
No, my bird skips were good. I
Okay.
accidentally ran into the dinosaurs in the mountain there.
Oh, right. I lost first and second bird skip, and I was very upset by that. But
Oh, boy.
but it only cost me 30 seconds for first failed bird skip because I got really good RNG for the Naga-ets and everything. Everything was pretty much lined up. The time loss was basically just getting into the encounter itself. So I was really fortunate for that. And then the second
That's
failed
awesome.
bird skip is just the encounter as well, because you're doing the reset on the bridge. So even though I failed those skips, they didn't really apply
Yeah, very
to
minimal.
how the race was. Yeah, exactly.
That's good. You pulled it through. Wow, that was a good game, man. You're a really good sport. I look forward to losing my next race, and maybe we'll have a rematch.
We will see. Look forward to it. Good luck in the non-losers bracket.
Oh, thank you. Well, guys, I'm pretty hungry. As my name kind of suggests, I eat a lot, so I'm
Time
gonna
for
go.
lunch, I guess.
Yeah, time for second lunch.
Thank you for putting on this race. I look forward to seeing more of them.
Yeah, ditto. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I'm really
thank
happy
you
with
guys
how it
both
turned
for
out.
racing. I also like to thank No Name for running some of the background and tech setup here, and just Speed Gaming in general for giving us a place to put this on and helping with more of the technical aspects of restreaming races.
Also make sure to follow the runners, definitely.
Yes.
Everybody watching you rock.
You can watch the replay, Bossa. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the future.
Good game.